All right.
Was reassigned?
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call together the May 11th, 2023 school committee meeting. If you would rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we've got a number of topics to get through this evening. First order of business is the school committee reorganization, post-election. I'd like to walk in the lane. So I'll turn the meeting over to Superintendent Schcmte to help facilitate this.
Thank you. As Justin pointed out, tonight is the reorganization meeting, and the superintendent's job at the beginning of the meeting is to call for nominations for the election of chair. So at this time, I will take nominations for the position of chair.
I'm gonna nominate Justin. He's doing a great job. I second.
Any other nominations? Declare nominations to be closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations, Justin.
Great.
I'll turn the meeting back over to you. That was the whole 10 seconds.
All right, thanks very much. So at this point in time, I will accept nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Jen Gold, who's also doing a great job.
Perfect. Jen's not with us this evening, but she did a great job last year. I'm sure she'd be happy to stay on. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. Was there a second on that?
And second that.
Second, perfect. All those in favor of appointing Jen Gold as the vice chair, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Perfect. Jen Gold will be the vice chair for next year. And then the last but not least, we need to clerk. We've got a vacancy in the clerk position. Mr. Austin. So I will accept the nomination for clerk.
Would you like to?
No, go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Elaine.
For the nomination for Elaine. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close that. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Perfect. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Elaine is the clerk, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. All right, we are reorganized. We've got a chair, vice chair, and a clerk. 2 members at large, a lot of work to do. The next order of business, we're going to move through our subcommittee appointments. So we've got a list in front of us. There's currently 15 subcommittees. What I'll do is we'll just kind of go through these one at a time. If anyone has any questions, or if anyone has anything to report back on how the committee, how your committee work went last year, now's the time to provide some feedback if you choose to do so. It's totally okay to express interest in being on a new subcommittee, or if you want to, job rotate, shift around responsibilities, that's fine as well. But we'll just take it from the top. So committee number 1 is the Bradford Sampson Scholarship Trust. This committee becomes active during the month of May, typically, usually requires a couple meetings to determine the distribution of available scholarship money to graduating seniors and alumni. This is current assignment with Mr. Austin, so we've got a vacancy here. It's my understanding that we sort of need to re-engage with the scholarship trust. So I think what we're going to do this year is we'll appoint someone on that. We'll check in with the scholarship trust, and we'll see if efforts are required of the school committee on that. And if they are, we'll continue with it. If the scholarship trust is running independently of school committee, we'll probably look to terminate the committee the following year. So is there anybody that would like to do the Bradford Sampson Scholarship Trust?
Nobody else wants it?
You can have it.
All right.
Stacy, perfect. Thanks so much. All right, next subcommittee is evaluation. This assignment involves the management of the superintendent's evaluation, including compilation of individual member ratings and presentations. This was assigned to me last year, although Brad stepped up and did it, which was terrific. I'm happy to stay on, but if someone feels like this is calling for them, I would be happy to share it or shift it. I'm not hearing much, so I guess as the chair, I'll keep it. I think that's appropriate. You good with that?
That's fine.
Okay. Number 3 is the Municipal Building Committee. This is the town committee appointed by the select board to plan for and oversee construction, reuse or new of town and school buildings. Stacy served on this last year. we have a Shaker Lane School Committee, a Shaker Lane Building Committee as well. This kind of goes hand in hand with that. I think we've already been involved in the process, so I think we'd all like you to stay on this if you're okay with
Yeah,
that.
nobody else wants it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Stacy. So the Technology Subcommittee, updates district's technology plan and makes recommendation for development and implementation of the technology program. Last year, this was served by Jen. Elaine had reached out to me saying that she has some experience with this and some professional capabilities here. So I think it would be appropriate for.
Yeah, that'd be great. This is work that I've done in the district where I work. So I feel like it's in my wheelhouse and I could make a contribution there.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, so we'll take Jen off that one. She owes us one, so it's now Elaine. Legislation Committee. This was my assignment of mine. This assignment involves keeping up to date on pending legislation, working together with the superintendent on keeping the school committee informed of legislative matters, and occasionally expressing the committee's opinion on legislative matters to our representatives. As the chair, I think it kind of does make sense to keep this one since Kelly and I kind of go back and forth probably more frequently than other members, but do you have a lot of experience with that or anything? No. Okay.
You can keep that.
Aaron, if I keep it?
Yep.
Perfect. Policy. This one's a little bit more of a heavy lift. So this is a full committee responsibility, but one or two members will be asked to take an organizational lead for this work. Beanal, you were on this previously with Mr. Austin. We've got a vacancy there. I think it's nice to have two people on there.
Sure,
Kelly's shaking his head. Yeah.
Brad really took the bulk of it last year, so I'm happy to take a lead
Okay,
this year. If
Great.
somebody wants to.
put you down as the lead. And we heard from Jen. She wasn't particularly interested in this one. She was not. So Stacy, Elaine, I mean, I can do it, but
Or we can try it with one, and if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
we can come back. It's up to you, so, as a group.
Yeah, that would be great because I have another one that I want to propose. So.
okay,
Yeah, happy to do that.
mix
I
some
will
things up.
report if it's.
So thank you for taking the lead because you're it.
Okay.
You know.
If you need help, let us know.
Right.
Okay. If we start to not see policy updates.
Since Brad did it by himself last year, I'll try to hold that.
Yeah,
And we brought it.
right.
And I think you probably learned a lot from Brad last year, so. Next committee is oath to bills and payroll, requires the ability to stop by central office. Actually, technology has made this a lot easier. It's very few trips to central office. To sign school department payroll as the official designee representative of the school committee. I did this last year. A lot of it's done through DocuSign these days, which is great. I think the town is doing a wonderful job with having DocuSign in place for that. Happy to stay on it, but if someone was interested, hearing no one
If you have
really.
the
Give it for
availability,
your signature.
yeah.
Sure. All right, I'll keep the oath to bills and payroll. Liaison with town government. So this was Jen. We should probably be happy to keep this one to serve as the school committee's contact with town boards. As the vice chair, it's probably a good one for her. Okay, we'll keep Jen there. Negotiations, there's a lot of work done by the subcommittee this past year. So to work with the school committee's attorney and the superintendent during negotiations with collective bargaining units. The appointments were myself and Beano, and then Brad stepped in. Good part of the way in. Well, there's a little bit, even though the contract has been ratified on both sides, we're going to announce all that information tonight. There's still a little bit of carryover work to be done. So I don't think this committee is totally going to rest for the next couple of years. I think there's some stuff to do here. I'll stay on because I think it's nice to have some consistency there, of course, but we probably do want someone else.
Right. What is it? Yeah. You guys doing like meeting? Let's.
Yeah, we've got a couple meetings to they'll probably take place in the fall.
Yeah. That's good.
Basic.
Unless you want to keep it. You're good.
Perfect. All right, so Park and Rec. So representative to Community Services, Park and Rec Department. This one was Jen. I think she did a nice job with it. She had some meetings and knows all the Park and Rec people, but if anyone's got a burning desire to steal this one away from her, I think she'd be okay with it, but
I mean, I'm happy to do it. I don't know how many Jen is at this.
Jen's at
Probably more than you.
in the liaison. That's it, right?
And then she had the school start time committee, but that's.
That's gonna
that's
do
gonna
it.
be solved.
Jen has liaison and
And she's gonna be on the budget.
Yeah, if it makes sense to keep the liaison with town government and park and rec, then I can do that.
Okay.
I can talk.
We can sub it out afterwards,
Okay.
but to get started anyways, I know it's a little awkward with her not being here. I'm sure she'd be lobbying for all these cool committees. All right, so we'll leave Jen as the park and rec. Good?
Yep.
Great. And then the budget subcommittee, that's currently myself and Jen.
You did a great job.
Thanks. I will stay on. I think Jen would probably be okay to stay on. Stacy, you had expressed interest in that last year, if I remember correctly.
I
But
did.
you might have your hands full with,
Yeah, I think maybe next year.
the
Jen
NBC and-
wants to break from it.
okay,
That's, it'd be interesting for me, but
all right, we'll leave Jen on there as well.
if she wants to.
Building
stay on,
committee will
then fine.
be time consuming this year.
What's that?
The building committee will be
Yeah, yeah.
time consuming.
All right, Safety and Security Committee, Stacy, you filled that position last year, did a good job with it. Stay on.
Yeah, I'll stay on it. Yeah, I'll sponsor it. Yeah.
Thank you.
CPAC, big shoes to fill here with Mr. Austin.
Yeah. Oh, he's going. No, I'll take it. I'd be happy
Okay.
to take that one.
Perfect, thank you, Elaine.
Yeah.
Master Plan Implementation Committee, Stacy, you had that current assignment?
Have that. Sign up. I'll keep it.
Yeah, is that the townwide one?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
There was nothing done.
Right.
To be honest with you.
There was a little bit of chatter about revisiting the master plan, because it's like about 7 years old
Yeah.
or so right now, so. There might not be a lot of work for this next year, but, you know, if you stay on it a couple years in a row.
Yeah,
Work could intensify, but,
yeah. I didn't wanna, so I didn't have too much communication about. it, so
okay,
I'll have.
why don't you keep it?
Yeah, all right, I'll keep it.
All right, and the school start time committee, you know what I think, I mean, you're getting ready to say something, I think maybe we should just keep it.
I think we
Because we're
should.
probably gonna get some feedback and we probably need a committee to,
Follow up.
like, things aren't gonna go super smooth right out of the gate, right? Like, there's gonna be a little bit of a year where we get through the bumps.
I think it would be a good idea to keep the school committee go, or keep the subcommittee going.
Yes, I just think their workload is gonna be substantially less.
Yeah.
Sure.
Since we hopefully accomplish goals. So Jen and Vina will stay on that because you guys did such a great job. And then Elaine, you had mentioned
Yeah.
possibly adding one, or you have an
Yeah,
idea to add one.
to propose adding one for curriculum and instruction. And that person, I'm thinking would meet maybe 4 times a year just to be a liaison between the curriculum and instruction department and school committee. And this happens to be an area where I feel like I could bring some expertise and be a thought partner for a job that can be kind of isolating. You know, it's good to have somebody to collaborate and just throw ideas around with. And then if there were any important ideas that came out of that, I could report back to school committee. So obviously I'm suggesting this for myself, wondering what you all thought about adding that subcommittee.
Sounds like a good idea to me. I hadn't, you know, I think we're kind of operating off of status quo, so.
Right.
You know, and in fact, last year we added one and we cut a few that were pretty stale, so. I think whatever's relevant, whatever the trend is, we should certainly be considering. Are you aware of the other districts that you've worked in or that have? a committee
Yeah,
like that?
most districts have somebody on a subcommittee for curriculum instruction. I mean, it is the main work that school departments do,
True.
at least from my perspective.
It's an important part of it.
It's an important part of, and I think to shine a light on that by having a subcommittee makes sense if you all agree.
That's great.
No objections? Kelly, you okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Great. So Elaine will take it as that you will run with that committee.
I will be for that committee.
We have rumblings of another committee that we'd like to add.
In the last meeting, we had talked about research of different districts and sort of this longer term project of compiling data from around towns, just so that we have sort of comparison points.
Mhm. Yeah, I like it. That had kind of come up in some of our executive sessions, who are comparables and what can we learn from that we want to do or not do from some of these other districts? What would we call it?
Research.
Research.
So the research would inform other subcommittees, right?
I think it's, you know, we looked at some districts when we did start times, then we were looking at some districts for contract negotiations, and it just felt like different people were looking at different districts, and it felt like it would be nice to have a subset of districts that we agree upon, and then just have comprehensive data versus this district does this, this one does this, but to be able to look at districts as a whole, which I think is a project instead of sort of doing it last minute when we're in situations.
Well, the other nice thing about that is that you might uncover some data that we never thought to look for.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. You talked too about maybe trying to find the districts that we are aspiring to be, to kind of set those guidelines for, we're looking to strengthen ourselves in some way, to have kind of those districts as an example to look towards. That might be good, you know, to just have kind of a foundational set. Yeah.
Well, there's another component to here. I mean, effective school districts start paving a road. They don't follow a road already paved. So I think there's two components. There's looking at best practices, and then there's an opportunity for us to continue to be visionaries.
Yeah.
And that's one of the key tenets of a high performing district is you're ready and eager to pave a new road.
Yeah.
That's how you become the best and become noticed. So.
Could even be something where we start to create relationships with other school committee members in other districts. I feel like that's always been kind of helpful for me to be able to talk to someone in another district. And we could, like, you guys get all the schools together, for teachers and admins. It would be interesting if we could get some school committee members together from different districts and talk about a few issues and see how everyone else is solving those problems.
Good. So research and data analysis subcommittee.
I love data.
So is you signing up for that?
I am.
Or wrote your name down already? That's good. Is that, you think it's a one-person job, or you want a buddy with that one?
I'm
You're good.
happy to have a thought partner if somebody would like, or I'm also, you all have lots of other committees, so I'm happy to maybe take the lead and see where it goes this year, and then if it feels like we need to add something.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump on if you find that the job is getting too big.
Okay.
Great. Any other ideas? Perfect. All right. We've got all of our subcommittee assignments. Job well done. All right, so the balance of the organizational part of the meeting is tonight we have a consent agenda posted. Some topics we have, the minutes are included from our May 4th, 2023 meeting. And then as standard, the oaths of bills and payroll. So I'd like to accept the motion for the minutes and the oaths of bills and payroll.
I motion to accept the payroll and minutes.
Motion made and
Second.
seconded. Perfect. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? None. Lane abstained. Thank you. Perfect. So we're moving right along. So it's our first opportunity for interested citizens. So if there's anyone with us this evening in the room or on Zoom that would like to speak before the school committee, now is your first opportunity. We'll have another opportunity as well after some of our new business items. Okay, great. All right, so we've got two new business items. They're somewhat related. So the first here is the Littleton Education Association 3-year agreement. The school committee negotiating team will discuss the LEA 3-year agreement that was recently ratified. And this evening we have a special guest, Mr. Brad Austin, who did a lot of work on the negotiating team. And it's with great pleasure that he gets to present the some of the highlights from the 3-year deal that was struck.
I've missed you guys. It's been 20 minutes. Brad Austin, 8 Adams Street. I come here tonight, obviously not as a member of the school committee. Congratulations, Elaine and Daniel. But as a member of the negotiating team that the school committee appointed to help negotiate a new contract with the Littleton Educators Association. It's a 3-year contract, both sides have ratified it, so I'm here to explain to the committee, which has already ratified it, but through the committee to the community, some of the main provisions for or of the contract. The 3 that stand out to me as being the most important for the community to know about. We'll be happy to, after we posted the whole contract, to talk with people about the details of educator evaluator appointments and meeting schedules. But the 3 areas that seem to be most important for the taxpayers and for the families of the local public schools are the salary schedule, the conference structure, and then the school calendar as a result of some changes that the contract makes. But before I talk about that, I want to say a couple words just about negotiations themselves, because negotiations often get a bad rap, right? Negotiations have the reputation of being contentious, often highly personal, certainly time consuming, and places where people dig in and don't listen to each other. And they're also confidential. And I feel like since I'm not a member of the committee anymore, I want the community to know that that's not the way these negotiations unfolded. And we can look around, we can see a lot of districts where the teachers hold the picket signs, where the mediators are getting involved, and that's not us. And I think that the leaders of the 2 sides, Mike from Mike Gillen from the LEA and Justin from the school committee deserve a lot of credit for that. Don't get me wrong, this was, was there, some of it. This was a negotiation when both sides were not afraid to say no, when both sides argued forcefully and steadfastly for their positions and their principles. But it's also a negotiation when both sides were willing to listen, when both sides were willing to compromise some of the best parts of negotiations, when we just kind of thought together through things. As I present the contract, one thing we'll see is that this isn't just a rubber stamp contract where we just change percentages of COLA increases and change the dates. We really revisited a lot of issues, and as the negotiations unfolded, we came to see that a lot of these issues are related to each other. I just want to put that out there. I think Mike and his whole team deserve a lot of credit. I think Justin and our team, Kelly certainly, Daniel, Rebecca, our attorneys, deserve a lot of credit for how this unfolded. Because ultimately, I think it's a good contract. We were able to, all of us were able to keep as a focus, as a goal, our shared goal of creating the best possible educational and personal growth environment for our students. And one way to do that is to recruit, to retain, and support our teachers. And this contract does that. So let me get to the 3 main provisions. The first is salary structure. It was clear to me when I joined the negotiating team that 2 of the priorities of the LEA were increasing their salaries. Of course, we all want to increase our salaries, and getting more duty-free prep time, so that teachers could spend part of their day not hanging out in the lunchroom, not supervising a study hall, but actually thinking about instruction, getting back to those parents, thinking about how to tweak that lesson so it goes a little better the next time. That was important to them. It was important to us. And so in both these cases, I'm very happy to say that we made real progress towards meeting the LEA's priorities. The first year of the contract gives a 2% salary increase to the teachers, but also provides for the hiring of 2 additional teachers, which allows us as a district to give those teachers, all the teachers, that duty-free prep time they need to be even more effective educators. Years 2 and years 3 of the contract give teachers a 3.25% raise, which is frankly a lot higher than the previous contracts. The previous contracts were 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. We broke that, and that was important to the LEA. And it's important to us. We want to compensate our teachers as generously as we can within the constraints that the school committee faces. One way we were able to justify to ourselves and to the town the 3.25% raises in years 2 and 3 was because we did the work of a school committee, of a negotiating team. The LEA gave us comps and said, hey, look, you should look at these 18 districts and look at how they compensate their teachers. And we found that sometimes they compensate their teachers better, and sometimes not as well. But looking at the contracts was illustrative. One thing that Justin and I did is we read all 18 contracts. And sometimes these contracts they're contracts, sometimes they're long. They're 30, 60, 80 pages long. But by doing that, we learned a couple of things. One was that most school districts in this group, most school districts in the state had their teachers working more than 180 days. In fact, we're the only district we found where teachers were working 180 days. Most of these districts where the teachers being paid marginally better than ours, we're working 184 days, 185 days. So what we did is we came back and said, look, we'd like to pay you a little more, but let's try to make the calendars equivalent to these other districts. And they agreed. They were eager to do that. And what that did is to open the door for other things. So the first big category of changes is salary structure, 2 plus teachers, 3.25, 3.25. Getting those 2 extra days, though, allowed us to brainstorm. And this is where the negotiation was really interesting. We spent a lot of time thinking about conference structures. One of the things we did in looking at these 18 contracts is see that there's a wide variety of ways conferences are conducted. We probably saw 8 or 10 different models across the districts we looked at. Most of us came away convinced that our current model was the worst. And that there's a lot to be improved on. So we proposed something. They think about, so well, that kind of works. What about this? And then we listen to them. And it really was a productive series of conversations. And what we landed on is a model that a lot of districts use, is that we'll use those 2, according to this contract, we use those 2 days that we're adding to our schedule from 182 to 184, where we use those to set them aside for conferences. Have a conference, I think in November, a day of conferences in March. And on those days, the teachers go to school for conferences and the students don't. So that's 2 days where you set aside for the conferences, 15-minute conferences. The parents are invited to the schools to talk with their educators about their students' progress, about celebrate the things we need to celebrate and share concerns as well. What the teachers wanted to make clear throughout all of our discussions, though, is that conferences aren't the only time when they want to talk to parents. They were crystal clear about this. When parents have issues, when they have concerns, when they have something they want, again, to celebrate or just to share, the teachers want our parents reaching out, and that will be consistent no matter what conference schedule we have. But the conference schedule we're proposing is 2 days, no students, only teachers and schools. What that allows us to do is take 6 half days, that were traditionally set aside for conferences and make them full days. 6 half days converted to full days. It's a big change for our family and for our students. Additionally, one of the things we discovered as we were going through these contracts is that Littleton is extraordinarily generous in our professional development funds that we set aside for individual educators' kind of professional development. Go to conference, take this grad class, buy these resources. We provide basically unprecedented support for educators. One option would be, hey, let's cut that back. Let's maybe save some money there. But another option was, yeah, we should keep doing that. It's working. And so we decided through our negotiations to keep doing that, but also came to believe that providing that level of support for individual teachers to seek out the training they most desperately need, the ones they identify as being most important to them, allows us to cut back a couple of the professional development days that we'd set aside in our calendar as district-wide. So we're getting the 6 professional the 6 half days from the conferences converted to full days. We're also getting 2 half days that were devoted to professional development converted to full days, which gives us 8 days that are on our calendar and have been on our calendar past as half days converted to full days. That's 24 hours of increased time on learning. That's 24 more hours for review sessions, remediation, for just conversations, getting to know each other, for student projects, for field trips, for making sure those IEPs aren't cut short on those half days, but people get the full services. One of the things that's been clear to us as a school committee, or was clear to us over the last 3 years, is that our students benefit. We have more time with our teachers. Adopting this contract gives our students many more 5-day, full-day weeks. It gives them many more weeks of uninterrupted instruction. It gives them a lot more time on learning. That's a good thing. But we only came to this, I think, at the last day of negotiations. We realized that doing all these things is great. Adding 2 days to the calendar, though, is complicated because the existing contract language said that the schools cannot start before September 1st. And so right now our schools are scheduled to end on the 26th, 27th for Shaker Lane. Adding 2 days to the end of that was a tough calendar to look at. So only after we decided one of the most important things we can do for our students' education was to give them that increased time on learning. One of the most important things we could do for our families was to give them those 8 half days so they don't have to find babysitters and they can, go to their own work uninterrupted. Was we came back and looked at the calendar and realized both the LEA and the negotiating team that we need to start before Labor Day. For this to happen, for this to work, for us to get all the benefits that we discussed in the other provisions, we need to start before Labor Day. And so according to this contract, Littleton Public Schools will start on the Monday before Labor Day. The teachers will be in the building, they'll be working with their administrators, they'll be playing in their classrooms, they'll be talking to colleagues. And on Tuesday before Labor Day, they'll welcome the students. Wednesday and Thursday, they'll be going over school routines, they'll be starting instruction, they'll be getting to know it. And then we have a 3-day week, 4-day weekend. 4-day week is a Labor Day weekend, and 5-day week. We think that's a nice ramp up to the school year, and it has the advantage of getting us out much earlier. Instead of June 28th, June 29th, June 27th, we're looking at June 13th, June 14th, June 15th. And we heard from a lot of families as we were talking about religious holidays, as we were talking over the last year about school start times, that they really, many families wanted to get out earlier in the school year and suggested starting for Labor Day. This contract does that. Let's be honest, it's late in the school year to make this change. It just is. I think Justin will agree. I may have been one of the people most forceful in pointing that out. But ultimately, I came to the decision that the long-term benefits for our students are worth the short-term pain of having to readjust my own family's vacation plans or to figure it out this year. This isn't the contract the school committee suggested. It's not the contract the LEA originally wanted, but it's a contract we negotiated in good faith and in good spirits. And it's a contract, I think, that will allow our students to have the most supportive educational environment with the most time of learning we can possibly provide. I'm not in school kid anymore, but I'm really glad that this is one of the last things I got to work on because it seems like a very positive step for our district. I'm confident I forgot things, Justin. Kelly, I forgot I messed something up. I'm confident there are questions and concerns, maybe on the committee or certainly in the community. Let's talk about it. What did I get wrong?
Brad, I think you just did an excellent job explaining the process. And I think you hit all the major points that the community needs to be aware of. The change in the start date, the increased full days. I mean, we've been doing a lot of surveys, and when we surveyed the community this year about start times, we also got by the way, could you try to reduce the number of half days? So that's why the school committee's sort of priority was a good look at that. I just want to be clear that the conference plan, they're reducing, it's 6 less half days K to 5. It's 5 less half days for 6 through 8. And then the high school really doesn't have any impact there because they didn't have half days for conferences, I don't think. But all in all, it's by and large a reduction of the number of half days. So,
and I don't know if I mentioned, I may have forgotten to mention, according to the contract, this is a pilot, right? One of the things the school committee got very good at doing over the last couple of years is doing community surveys and soliciting feedback. This contract allows us to keep that muscle memory, and it allows the school committee to keep the muscle memory and to requires the school committee and the LEA to come back together in about 18 months, 24 months and say, hey, is this working? and to revisit it before we get deep into the negotiations of the next contract. We know it's an experiment. We know there'll be some people who are frustrated with it. Ultimately decided it's what's best for the students and for the district.
And it would have been awkward if you said it, because I want to say that Brad did a great job as well. So, Bino and I were on the negotiating team, things happened, Bino's, work, life increased, so Brad was, stepped right in. And as Brad typically does, he stepped right into asking lots of good questions and digging deeper, and I want to applaud the LEA as well. They did a fabulous job, all of their members. And we kept the process as a conversation, which is kind of like what we do as a school committee here. But through that open exchange and dialogue, we were able to uncover a lot of needs and meet somewhere in the middle and get a lot done. So at the end of the day, I think both sides would say that it was a very rewarding process. It might not have started out that way, but at the end of the day, both sides.
Yeah, I think I
felt very
said
comfortable
at the
with
end,
deal.
hey, it's a pleasure negotiating with you. And I wasn't being sarcastic. It was not always enjoyable. It certainly was a lot of time. But it was an honest exchange of views with everybody sharing the goal of let's make our schools as good as they can be. And that's really valuable to know that that's how the teachers were operating. That's how the committee was operating.
I concur with what Justin has said. Excuse me. I call it the art of negotiation. You can well imagine that you have parties coming to the table with some common interests, but different interests, and they do get emotional at times. And credit to everybody around that table, we listened. And I think that's the key to any successful negotiation. And we may not have agreed, or they may not have agreed to us, but they appreciated what we had to say, and they thought about the context and what we were saying. Just a point of clarity, Brad. I'm sure you said this, but I want to hammer this point home as well. The year 2 and 3 is 3.25, but that's what it's going to cost us. But in reality, the teachers will be getting a 2.25 COLA, because adding 2 days is a 1% expense for us. So it depends on how you look at it. The bottom line, funding wise, it's 3.25, but in the teacher's pockets, it's 2.25.
And as we presented to the
In the teacher's pocket, it's 3.25, but they're working 2 extra days.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes.
Yeah, just for any teacher that's out there listening.
Right, you're right.
They are earning the extra money, and we thank them for that because they're working the extra time. And that allows us to keep the kids in the classrooms for longer. And
Right,
that was the common goal. So
right. So I guess
you can have a different viewpoint on how we're funding it and why we're funding it and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it was a win-win for both sides.
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I just want to thank the negotiating committee for researching those 18 contracts. That's really next level. I've never heard of a negotiating team doing that before. And
we had footnotes, we had charts, it was fun.
the information that must have given you is huge. And I'm sure that uncovered ideas that you hadn't thought of before.
It really did. And part of it was because neither Justin nor I had, at that point, it was Justin and I on the school committee members on the committee. We hadn't gone through this before. It's easy to forget that, Justin's the longest tenured member of the school committee. You've been here this is your 4th year.
And I'm going in.
You're going in your 4th
Yeah.
year. So nobody in the school committee had negotiated a contract before. So we just didn't have the context of what other districts did. And so, yeah, you just turn the game and read contracts.
Yeah.
And then, so Justin would text me, I'd text him. The next thing you know, I've got a spreadsheet, we got charts. But part of it was just trying to figure out what we needed to know and what questions we should ask. And it became, it wasn't a gotcha thing. It was here's some context for our conversation. I think it really helped us open some doors to really fruitful conversations with the LEA. And to their credit, they were willing to walk through those doors and to think things through with us. It was a rewarding experience.
Well, the other piece of it is that you want to retain teachers and keep them from going to wealthier districts that surround Littleton.
Yeah.
So, and the other piece that I think parents are really going to like is that full day conference schedule, because it's very respectful of parents' work schedules. You know, they can go in the morning, they can go in the afternoon, they can go in the evening and not have to miss.
But they can't. So that's, I
Oh, it
think
doesn't
part of
work that way.
it. No, thanks, Lane.
Well,
Not
Are you
every-
new here? No, no, they can't. So part of the compromise was that the conferences are during school hours. And it's, you know, some would say it's not respectful of parents' working conditions, that the conference needs to take place from like first bell to last bell. Again, it's not, you know, we proposed models, they proposed models, this is where we landed. And we know that some people, it may not work as well as we hope it works. And so we'll revisit it. We built in the revisit cycle. But it got us those 2 days, which allowed us to get those 6 days, which helped open the door to get those 2 extra days. And, you know, looking at those number of hours on learning, and especially, I don't think I mentioned before, but, you know, just we're still coming out of dealing with the educational issues caused by the altered educational models the last couple of years, and getting our students that much more time with their teachers, that many more uninterrupted school days and school weeks was just a priority of the committee, and we were willing to make some compromises in order to achieve that. And so some people will be frustrated with that model. Absolutely, that's true.
And families, if they choose, can tie in with a virtual conference. So they don't necessarily have to be in person.
It's good accommodation too. And I like the idea of ramping up in the fall, you know, go to school for 3 days and then 4 days and then 5 days. It's nice for the students and for the parents and for the teachers.
And look, let's be honest, we wish we'd had this contract negotiated 3 months ago, so we didn't release a calendar that I think the school committee is going to revisit here shortly. We absolutely wish that was true. Negotiations take time. And if we had rushed to an agreement then, there's no way we'd have gotten this number of half days off the schedule. We not gotten any of them off the schedule because we'd have had to continue the conference practice that were in place. And I think what's happened in the past is a lot of the contract negotiations just came down to let's figure out the money and just keep everything else status quo. Neither the LEA nor the school committee team was content with doing that. We've spent a lot of time over the last year or so revisiting things, asking good questions. And some people will be frustrated with this, but I think it paid off. I think it's a good contract.
I also just want to acknowledge all the community members that reached out and gave feedback. We didn't necessarily solicit a survey the way we did for start times, but everybody that wrote unsolicited, just feedback specifically on the half days. I think as a committee, we went in there knowing that this was a priority for the community, not because we were making it up or anecdotally, but because we had heard that in such numbers. And sometimes it's challenging when you send an email and you get a response from a school committee member that's thank you for your feedback. It doesn't mean we're not listening. We're absolutely listening. And there's a process. And so hopefully I think community members can see that we are listening. There is a process, and sometimes it works out this way, not always, but sometimes we are able to move the needle on it.
Well, many times I know, certainly during the first couple of years when we were talking about COVID things a lot, is that we knew as a school committee members that, hey, we're talking about this, we're trying to get this settled, but confidentiality negotiations is sacred. We can't betray our partners and talk about things that we've said in kind of closed session. And so we got, how many emails? I don't know, hundreds of emails over the last several months about, hey, can you do something about the calendar? Hey, you need to do something about half days. We've heard those for years and years and years. The answer was, hey, we're trying. But we had to find a way to unlock that door and find ways to walk through it. That's also respectful of our partners in the LEA. Ultimately did. And again, to their credit, they were willing to explore these options with us. And it was, again, I think of all my contacts in other districts where they're carrying picket signs, where they are out there, and we had a tough negotiation. It wasn't always easy, but it was always respectful, and we ended up, I think, in a really good place.
Super impressive.
Well said, Brad. We seem to be good. Thank you for all the information and all of your hard work. I sincerely mean that.
Thank y'all for, I can go now.
All right, so the plan is we'll get the full contract updated and uploaded to the website. And that'll be made available to the general public very shortly, as soon as we can get that ticket order in probably.
Right, we'll have to go back and forth, have them check it as well, yes.
Sure. Okay. So then moving right along, so as Brad alluded to, the contract resulted in some need to revisit the school calendar. So the next agenda item here is a revised 2023-2024 school calendar. Superintendent Kelly Clenchey and Director of Teaching and Learning Elizabeth Steele will review the revised 2023-2024 school calendar with the school committee. So we've got it up on the board here.
So I'm gonna turn it over to Beth. Brad, you did an excellent job. Brad really did cover a lot of the highlights in the calendar in terms of the start dates and end dates. Beth will talk about some of the remaining half PD days, and you'll notice that we have in fact gained more full week or more 5-day weeks in the calendar year. So I'm gonna turn it over to you this time, Beth.
Sure, I'm happy to walk us through the changes. They were pretty explicitly just shared, but I'll point them out with the calendar in front of us.
Great.
So as Brad stated, teachers will start, this year it happens to be August 28th, but it'll be the Monday before Labor Day. Students will come in the following day. So that Tuesday, this upcoming year, it happens to be August 29th. Preschool will start the following week, which is traditional for us to have them start a little bit later. So they'll start September 5th. What is nice is that if that slow build, it's actually a really slow build because it's the 3 days, 4 days, 4.5 day week, and then a 5-day. So there is that slow build in there. As we, sorry, Brad, not to point that out, but there are the 2 conference days that are full days. We put them November 29th. Again, we know that November tends to be just a busy month, and so we're aware of a conference day being in that, but it really fits well in consideration of when terms end. And when report cards come out for the various schools. So we chose that day in consultation with others. And then March 13th is the other full day of conference, that spring conferences. Again, it's a little bit earlier in order to accommodate MCAS schedules that happen in the spring and other testing windows that happen in the spring. So those are the 2 full days of conferences. And then the early release PD days. So it was negotiated, we're at 10 PD days. And so we are going to just slightly restructure the way that we have done it. We have historically done 6-4-2, meaning 6 faculty-led PD days, 4 building-based or site-based PD days, and then 2 district-wide. And so we're just going to adjust that to a 5-3-2 model and see how it goes. And then again, I love that we built it in, but we'll reflect upon that and see if that's working. And if it's not, we'll adjust. And if it is, we'll maintain and see how we can make it better. So I think I hit upon those salient points. The calendar is there in front of you. Happy to answer questions if there are any.
I think the calendar looks great. We may have gotten a new color, that light blue color. Is that new to the scheme?
We tried to do the Tiger Pride colors.
That's our new color. For the most part, it's kind of 1 half day a month. It looks like it's 2 half days at the beginning of the year where there's a little bit more ground to cover, I would think, as a staff member. And then we sort of close with 2 half days in May because there's also some work to be done at the end of the year with, thinking ahead for the following year, I bet. But the rest of the months are all 1 half day a month, which I think is wonderful. It'll be interesting to see how the conference schedule goes with closing for 2 days, but like we learned, many districts are doing it. So if other districts are doing it, our families can do it too. You can no longer have the joke about no school November. All that's on there really are the kind of the federal holidays and the typical holidays that we would have anyways. So any feedback? Everybody likes it, right? Yeah. Yeah. We do realize that there will be a handful of families that this is going to come as a surprise to them with the start before Labor Day. Brad pointed that out. And I just want to say up front that both the school committee and the Littleton Educators Association was aware of that and did not make this decision lightly. But at the end of the day, with all of the changes that needed to take place, we thought it was in everyone's best interest to start next school year with this plan. And as a result, we might be catching a couple of families off guard here. And we apologize for that, but there was just no other way around that. I think we have a letter going out, Kelly.
We do tonight, and just an additional comment, if there are some conflicts, we'll work with the families.
Okay,
We realize it's a late time of the year to revise a calendar. At the same time, we feel it's the right thing to do, but we'll work with those families that have conflicts.
great. Looks like we're gonna need a motion to accept this calendar
I move to accept the calendar.
presented. Elaine moved. We have a second.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, we'll mark that unanimous. Perfect job, well done, everybody. Thank you for the time and effort to revise the calendar so late, appreciate that. So this is our second opportunity for interested citizens.
Brad, can I just make one quick announcement before you do that?
You
I
may,
just want to make the announcement, excuse me, the bus registration opens on Monday, May 15th. I just want the word to get out for people to go on to the Littleton School website. Click on that, register my students and get that done early, please. Thank you.
opens May 15th, when does it close?
June 30th.
Okay, earlier the better, though.
Yep,
Sure.
thank you.
You got it. All right, so second opportunity for interested citizens, anyone before us this evening or at home that wishes to speak? No raised hands, perfect. Is there a need for an executive session on your side?
No, there's not.
Okay, so no need for executive session, so. Before we adjourn, I'll just announce that our next school committee meeting is May 18th, 7 p.m. at the police department or virtually at home. But without any further business, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Nice job, Brad.